That's my bag.
Are you asking me or accusing me?
My bag disappeared, and yours looks exactly like it.
Exactly like it doesn't make it yours. You searched my things.
Then where is mine?
You already searched my things.
I know my bag disappeared. You don't sound convinced.
I said maybe.
What was that?
Stay buckled. Put it on.
I'm fine. How do you know what to do?
Just listen to the crew.
That's my bag. Claire Whitmore's voice cut through the first-class cabin just as the flight attendant reached for the aircraft door, and within seconds, nearly every face turned toward Marcus Reed. He stood beside seat 4A, 6'2", broad-shouldered, dressed in a charcoal work jacket and worn brown boots, one hand resting on a black leather carry-on while his 7-year-old son, Noah, hugged a small toy airplane against his chest. Claire stepped closer. At 26, the billionaire CEO of Whitmore Aeronautics was accustomed to rooms changing temperature when she spoke. Her cream blazer was immaculate, her boarding pass still tucked between 2 fingers. I said, "That's my bag." Marcus looked at the luggage, then at her. "Are you asking me or accusing me?" A hush spread beneath the soft ventilation hum. Claire's eyes narrowed. "My bag was above my seat 5 minutes ago. Now it's gone, and you're standing beside one exactly like it." Marcus felt Noah's fingers close around his sleeve. That small pressure mattered more than the strangers watching him. "Exactly like it isn't the same as mine," Marcus said. Senior flight attendant Rachel Kim approached with a professional smile already strained at the edges. "Is there a problem?" "He has my carry-on," Claire said. "Not might have. Has." Marcus heard the certainty. So did Noah. Rachel glanced from Claire to Marcus, then toward the bag. "Sir, would you mind opening it?" Marcus's jaw tightened. He could argue. He could demand airport security. He could ask why nobody had first checked the baggage tag hanging plainly from the handle. But Noah was watching his face, learning from every second of silence. Marcus crouched until they were eye level. "Dad," Noah whispered, "do they think you stole something?" The question landed harder than Claire's accusation. Marcus kept his voice low. "Look at me, buddy. You know who your father is." Noah nodded, though worry remained in his eyes. Marcus stood and unzipped the carry-on. Inside were 2 folded T-shirts, children's pajamas, a paperback about airplanes, an inhaler pouch, a toothbrush kit, and a framed photograph wrapped carefully in a gray sweatshirt. Noah reached quickly for the photograph before it could slide out. For half a second, Claire saw the image. Marcus smiling beside a black woman in an Air Force medical uniform. Noah between them, younger and laughing. Noah pressed the picture against his chest beside the toy plane. On the toy's faded blue wing, written in silver marker, were 3 words, "Love you, Mom." Claire's expression shifted almost imperceptibly, but when Rachel confirmed there was no purse inside, Claire only folded her arms. "Then where is mine?" Marcus stared at her. "No apology. No uncertainty." Just another question built on the assumption that somehow he still owed her an answer. Rachel checked the overhead compartments while passengers pretended not to watch. Marcus slowly repacked his belongings. The scent of coffee mixed with conditioned air and expensive perfume. Noah whispered, "Can they take you away?" Marcus paused with his hand on the zipper. "Not for something I didn't do." Across the aisle, Claire heard him. Her gaze dropped briefly to Noah, then returned to the missing space above seat 4B. Rachel called toward the boarding crew, asking whether any luggage had been moved during pre-departure checks. Marcus lifted his bag and finally noticed the white claim tag looped around its handle. He looked at Claire's boarding pass, then at the number printed on his own tag. Something didn't match. "Ms. Whitmore," he said. Claire turned. Marcus pointed toward the tag. "Before you decide what happened, you might want to check the aircraft door seal with a heavy metallic thump." Rachel's radio crackled. She was called forward before Marcus could finish. Claire returned to her seat without answering. Noah climbed into 4A, still clutching the little airplane, and Marcus settled beside him. Across the narrow aisle sat the woman who had just accused him of theft. Outside the window, rain streaked across the glass as the jet began pushing back from a gate. Noah placed his small hand over Marcus's. Marcus squeezed it once. Then, somewhere beneath their feet, both engines began to roar. By the time Flight 417 reached the end of the taxiway, Noah had asked the same question 3 different ways. They cannot arrest you when we land, right? Marcus kept his eyes on the boy while fastening Noah's seat belt one more time. Nobody is arresting anybody, but she told the flight attendant. Marcus glanced across the aisle. Claire Whitmore sat in 4B with her laptop open, blue-white light sharpening the controlled lines of her face. She appeared absorbed in a financial report, but her fingers had stopped moving. She was listening. People can be wrong, Marcus said quietly. Being certain does not make somebody right. Noah looked toward Claire. Why was she certain about you? That question found the one place Marcus had been trying to protect. He could explain prejudice. He could explain how expensive clothes, job titles, skin color, and fear sometimes made adults see stories before they saw people. But Noah was 7. Marcus wanted him alert to the world without teaching him to hate it. Sometimes people decide too quickly, he said. What matters is what we decide to become afterward. Across the aisle, Claire closed her laptop halfway. Before she could speak, a gray-haired passenger leaned toward her. Claire Whitmore. His expression brightened. Whitmore Aeronautics. I saw your interview on CNBC. Claire gave the practiced smile of someone accustomed to being recognized. Noah stared at her, then whispered, She owns an airplane company? Not this airplane, Marcus said. The man laughed, but Claire did not. Rachel Kim returned from the forward galley and crouched beside Marcus. Mr. Reed, the gate crew is checking the baggage records. They still have not located Miss Whitmore's carry-on. Because she filed a report before departure, security may want statements after landing. Noah immediately gripped Marcus's wrist. Statements. Marcus covered the boy's hand with his own. That is fine. Rachel lowered her voice. For what it is worth, your tag matches this bag. Marcus looked at her. It always did. Rachel absorbed that without defending herself. Yes, sir. She stood and continued down the aisle. Claire had heard every word. For several seconds, only the rising engines filled the cabin. Then Noah's little blue airplane slipped from his lap as the aircraft turned. It rolled across the carpet and stopped beneath Claire's shoe. She picked it up carefully. The silver writing beneath one wing caught the overhead light. Love you, Mom. Claire looked at Noah. Is this yours? My mom gave it to me. She likes airplanes? Noah's face changed. Marcus saw it immediately. She did, Noah answered. Claire noticed the past tense. She handed the toy back with both hands. Take care of it. Noah nodded. Ido. Marcus watched Claire for a moment. It was the first thing she had said to his son that did not carry suspicion behind it. Then her phone vibrated before the final cabin signal. A message from her assistant appeared across the screen. Bag still missing. Gate team checking cameras. Claire's eyes lifted automatically toward Marcus's carry-on. Marcus caught the look. You already searched my things. I know. Do you? Claire straightened. I know my bag disappeared. That is not the same thing as knowing who took it. Her lips parted, but the aircraft surged forward before she answered. Noah pressed back into his seat. Marcus reached across him and closed the window shade halfway against the rain. 30 seconds later, they lifted above the runway, Chicago shrinking beneath a ceiling of dark clouds. When the seatbelt sign finally remained steady, Noah leaned against Marcus's shoulder. Dad, yeah, buddy. Mom would have believed you. Marcus looked down at the toy airplane resting in Noah's hands. Your mom believed people should get a chance to tell the truth. Claire turned toward the window. For the first time since boarding, she looked less angry than uncertain. Then the aircraft gave a small, unexpected shudder. A glass trembled on Claire's tray. Marcus looked toward the wing. The vibration stopped almost immediately, but his expression did not return to normal. Noah noticed. What was that? Marcus listened to the engines beneath the floor. Probably turbulence. He said it gently, but his eyes stayed on the window. If you're enjoying this story so far, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to Hidden Father Stories. Every day, we bring you touching stories, emotional love stories, and unforgettable journeys inspired by the moments that change people's lives forever. The vibration returned 10 minutes later, softer this time, almost too faint for anyone without Marcus Reed's history to notice. He stopped turning the page of Noah's airplane book and listened. Around them, first class had settled into the comfortable rhythm of flight. Eyes clicked inside glasses. Laptop keys tapped beneath the steady rush of conditioned air. Rain had disappeared below the clouds, leaving pale afternoon light against the windows. Noah followed his father's gaze. Still turbulence? Marcus waited another second. Maybe. Across the aisle, Claire Whitmore heard him. You do not sound convinced. Marcus looked at her. I said maybe. Her laptop remained open, but the financial report had been replaced by a message thread with her assistant. The airport had reviewed the boarding area. No one had yet found Claire's missing carry-on. She caught Marcus noticing the screen and angled it away. You seem very interested in my bag. You made it my problem when you accused me. Claire lowered her voice. I told the flight attendant what I saw. You saw me standing beside a black bag. That looked exactly like mine. Marcus nodded toward the luggage above him. And had my name on the tag. Claire's expression tightened. I did not see the tag. That is the point. The words were quiet enough that only Claire heard them. Noah did too. He looked from one adult to the other, then down at the toy airplane in his lap. Marcus immediately regretted letting the conversation sharpen in front of him. Noah's face had gone pale. Hey, Marcus said, turning toward him. What is it? My stomach feels weird. Marcus reached for the air sickness bag before Noah finished speaking. He lowered the air vent, loosened the boy's sweatshirt collar, and rested a steady hand between his shoulder blades. Slow breaths. In through your nose. Out through your mouth. Count with me. 1. Good. 2. The aircraft rocked gently. Noah closed his eyes. Marcus kept counting. His voice never changed. Claire watched the same man she had regarded with suspicion 20 minutes earlier wipe his son's forehead with a napkin and quietly distract him by naming aircraft parts from the picture book. There was no embarrassment in Marcus's tenderness, no impatience. His large hands moved carefully around the little boy as though gentleness were another kind of strength. Noah finally opened his eyes. Mom used to count with me. Marcus paused. Yeah, she did. She was better at it. A small smile touched Marcus's face. She was better at most things. Noah managed a weak laugh. Claire looked toward the window, giving them privacy, but the words stayed with her. After a moment, Noah asked, Did Mom ever get scared flying? Marcus rubbed his thumb across the edge of the toy airplane. Everybody gets scared sometimes. Even her. Even you. Marcus looked at his son. Especially me. Claire turned back at that. Something about the answer surprised her. Marcus noticed, but said nothing. Rachel Kim approached from the galley carrying bottled water. She handed one to Noah, then leaned closer to Marcus. The gate sent another update. They think a carry-on may have been removed during boarding because of a tag mismatch. Claire sat straighter. Mine. They are checking Miss Whitmore. Marcus glanced at Claire, but offered no victory. That somehow made her more uncomfortable. If they moved it, Claire said, then I may have been mistaken. Marcus held her gaze. May have been. Before she could answer, a deep mechanical sound rolled beneath the cabin floor. Not turbulence. Not this time. Marcus went completely still. Rachel's eyes lifted toward the ceiling. Noah whispered, Dad. A sharp boom came from the left side of the aircraft. Several passengers gasped as the cabin tilted. Claire grabbed her armrest. Marcus looked through the window and saw the left engine shuddering against the gray sky. Stay buckled, he told Noah. His voice was calm, but every trace of softness had vanished from his eyes. Then, only seconds later, another heavy boom sounded from the opposite side. The lights flickered once, twice. The familiar engine roar changed into something terrifyingly thin. Rachel gripped the nearest seat. Marcus turned toward her. Neither of them needed to say. At first, Noah clutched his mother's toy airplane against his chest as the captain's voice came over the speakers, controlled but urgent. Ladies and gentlemen, remain seated and keep your seat belts securely fastened. Marcus reached for Noah's hand. Across the aisle, Claire stared at him, and for the first time since they had met, she was not looking at a man she suspected. She was looking at the only person near her who seemed to understand what was happening. The cabin changed before anyone understood why. The familiar engine roar had faded into a strange rushing silence, leaving only the hiss of air against the fuselage and the nervous rattle of loose glassware. Then the oxygen masks dropped. Noah stared upward as yellow cups swung above his head. "Dad," Marcus was already moving. "Mask on first, buddy. Pull it toward you." His voice stayed level. Noah obeyed with trembling hands while Marcus secured his own mask and checked the boy strap. Across the aisle, Claire had frozen with hers hanging inches from her face. "Claire!" She looked at Marcus. "Put on." Something in his tone reached through her panic. She pulled the mask down and covered her nose and mouth. Rachel Kim moved through the cabin as carefully as the descending aircraft allowed, checking passengers before dropping into the jump seat near the forward galley. The intercom crackled. Captain Daniel Hayes spoke with deliberate calm. "We have experienced a significant loss of engine power. We are descending and preparing for an emergency landing. Please follow all crew instructions." A woman too rose behind Marcus began crying. Someone farther back called out a prayer. Noah's fingers found Marcus's sleeve. "Both engines." Marcus looked toward the window. The wing remained steady, but the sound told him enough. "The pilots are working the problem." "That is not what I asked." Marcus looked back at his son. Noah had inherited Danielle's way of recognizing when adults soften the truth. Marcus placed his hand over Noah's. "We are going to do exactly what the crew tells us." The aircraft dropped suddenly, just enough to lift stomachs and send a bottle rolling down the aisle. Claire gripped both armrests. Her billionaire title, her assistants, her company, even a missing bag had become useless within seconds. Marcus noticed her breathing accelerating. "Slow it down," he said. She stared at him. "What?" "You're breathing. Slow it down." "I am fine." "You're not." "That is all right." Claire almost argued. Then another shudder passed through the cabin. She closed her eyes and followed his rhythm. Noah watched them both. Rachel unfastened herself briefly when an elderly passenger across the cabin struggled with her mask. Marcus saw the flight attendant calculate the distance, the unstable aisle, the passengers between them. "Stay seated," he called. Rachel looked at him sharply. Marcus pointed to the passenger beside the woman. "Sir, put your mask on first, then help her. Tighten the elastic behind her head." The man followed the instruction. Rachel stared at Marcus for half a second longer than necessary. "You have done emergency response before." Marcus did not answer. Noah looked up at him, and the fear in the boy's eyes reminded Marcus exactly why that part of his life stayed buried. Another overhead compartment popped open several rows back, spilling a jacket and a small pillow into the aisle. No one moved for them. Claire glanced toward the bins above first class, and Marcus saw her eyes briefly search for the bag that had mattered so much 20 minutes earlier. She caught herself doing it. Then she looked at Noah instead. "Your airplane," she said. Noah looked down. The little blue toy had slipped between the seats. Claire reached carefully with one foot, nudged it closer, then picked it up and handed it back. "Do not lose this one." Noah hugged it against his chest. "Mom gave it to me. I remember." Claire's voice was quieter now. The aircraft banked gently. Marcus looked toward Rachel. Nearest suitable field, Rachel hesitated. "Captain Hayes is trying for a regional airport, about 30 miles out." Marcus calculated silently. Claire heard the number. 30 miles. "Do not think about the distance," Marcus told her. She gave him a strained look. "Easy for you to say." Marcus glanced at Noah. "No, it is not." That answer silenced her. A chime sounded from the cockpit. Rachel listened to a message through the handset, and the color left her face. She returned it slowly. "We need the cabin secured immediately." Marcus knew that tone. He unbuckled instinctively. Noah grabbed his wrist with both hands. No." Marcus stopped. Everything inside him pulled in opposite directions. A frightened cabin needed capable hands. His son needed his father sitting exactly where he was. Marcus crouched as far as the seat belt allowed and pressed his forehead gently against Noah's. "I am right here." Noah swallowed. "Do not leave me." Marcus removed the old military wristwatch he still wore and placed it in Noah's palm. "Hold this for me." Noah closed his fingers around it. Marcus looked toward Rachel, then toward the passengers struggling to stay calm. Across the aisle, Claire watched the choice on his face and finally understood something she had missed from the moment she first saw him. Marcus Reed was not calm because he felt no fear. He was calm because somebody smaller was learning from what he did with it. Marcus stayed beside Noah for 3 more breaths. 1, 2, 3. Then Rachel's voice carried from the forward galley. "Mr. Reed, I need you for a moment." Noah tightened his fingers around the old military watch. Marcus looked at him. "You can see me from your seat. Promise." "Every second." Marcus waited until Noah nodded, then moved carefully into the aisle. The aircraft was descending steadily now, the floor tilted just enough to make every step deliberate. Rachel pointed toward an elderly passenger whose seat belt had twisted beneath a blanket. Marcus corrected it without unfastening the passenger completely, then checked a loose service cart latch near the galley. His movements were quick, but never hurried. Claire watched from across the aisle. "You knew exactly what to do," she said when he returned. Marcus buckled himself beside Noah. "I followed instructions." Rachel heard him. "No, you anticipated them." Marcus said nothing. A sudden jolt shook the overhead compartments. One door swung open above Claire, and a folded coat and travel pillow dropped toward her. Marcus raised his arm, redirecting them into the aisle before they reached her. Claire stared at him. "You just protected me." Marcus picked up the pillow and pushed it beneath the seat. "You were there. After what I did." He looked at Noah before answering. "An emergency does not ask who deserves help." Claire's face changed. The words were not warm, but neither were they cruel. That seemed to affect her more. Rachel crouched beside Marcus again. "Were you military?" Noah looked up sharply. Marcus's eyes remained on Rachel. "Why?" "Because you knew how to secure the cabin before I asked. You recognized the engine problem. You knew how to keep passengers focused." Marcus exhaled slowly. "Air Force." Claire leaned closer despite herself. Rachel asked, "Flight crew." "Aircraft rescue and firefighting." The cabin seemed quieter around those words. Claire looked at Marcus's work jacket, his worn boots, then at the black carry-on she had insisted must contain her property. Her gaze fell away first. Noah touched the watch in his palm. "Dad used to help people near airplanes." Marcus gently covered Noah's hand. "That was a long time ago." "You never said that," Claire murmured. Marcus turned toward her. "You never asked anything about me before deciding who I was." Claire had no answer. Her phone was useless now, locked in airplane mode with no message capable of fixing what had already happened. The missing bag still existed somewhere behind them, perhaps at the gate, perhaps on another card, but its absence had become a mirror she could no longer avoid. "Rachel said the tag on your bag matched your name," Claire said. "Yes. I should have looked." "Yes. I thought I saw enough." Marcus's voice remained even. That is usually when people stop looking. Noah watched Claire carefully. She looked toward him and seemed to understand that whatever she said next would be heard by more than Marcus. "I was wrong to accuse your father before I knew." Noah glanced at Marcus, waiting. Marcus did not rescue Claire from the discomfort. He simply rested his hand over his son's. Before anyone could speak again, the aircraft shuddered and Claire's breathing shortened. Her fingers locked around the armrests. Marcus recognized panic immediately. "Look at me," she tried. "I cannot." "Yes, you can." For seconds in, for seconds out. Claire followed him once, then again. Noah began counting softly with them. 1, 2, 3, 4. Claire's breathing gradually slowed. Rachel returned to the jump seat and studied Marcus with a question she did not ask. He had revealed what he had done, but not why he had left it. Noah leaned into his father's side. "Are you going to help if they need you?" Marcus looked down at the boy. "Only if I can come back to you." Noah held the watch tighter. Claire heard the answer and looked at the photograph, still partly visible inside Marcus's carry-on. The woman in the Air Force medical uniform was smiling beside him. Suddenly, the empty place in that family picture felt connected to the fear Marcus had been hiding. Then Captain Hayes returned over the speakers. "We have identified an emergency landing site. Cabin crew, prepare for landing." Rachel immediately stood. Marcus looked toward the windows, then toward Noah. Claire saw something pass through his eyes that had not been there during the engine failure. Not uncertainty about what to do. Memory. And for the first time, she wondered what kind of man could know exactly how to save strangers and still be terrified of leaving his son. "You can hold my hand." Noah said it so quietly that Claire almost missed him beneath the soft alarms and the rushing air outside the fuselage. She looked across the aisle. The 7-year-old had one hand wrapped around his mother's toy airplane and the other stretched toward her, palm open. Claire stared at it. 20 minutes earlier, she had watched that same small hand clutch Marcus's sleeve while strangers searched his belongings because of her accusation. Now Noah was offering it to her. "You do not have to," Claire said. Noah kept his hand there. "I know." Another tremor moved through the aircraft. Claire took it. His fingers were warm, small, steady enough to make her ashamed of how badly her own were shaking. Marcus noticed from beside him, but said nothing. He simply checked Noah's seat belt again, then looked toward Rachel as she secured the forward cabin. Claire swallowed. "Are you scared?" Noah nodded. "A lot." "You do not look scared." Noah glanced at his father. "Dad says being scared does not mean you stop being kind." Marcus lowered his eyes for a moment. Claire felt the sentence settle somewhere deeper than fear. She had spent years believing strength meant never letting anyone see uncertainty. Marcus seemed to believe strength was what a person did, while uncertainty was already there. Rachel moved down the aisle checking seatbacks. When she reached them, Claire asked, "How long?" Rachel did not pretend to misunderstand. "Captain Hayes is lining up for the emergency field now. We need everyone prepared." Claire's grip tightened around Noah's hand. Marcus leaned slightly toward her. "Keep breathing." "I am trying." "Do not try to control the airplane. Control the next breath." Claire looked at him. "How are you this calm?" Marcus's expression barely changed. "I am not." Noah looked up. "Dad gets scared about leaving me." Marcus turned toward him. "Buddy, it is true." Noah's voice softened. "Since Mom." Silence filled the 3 seats despite everything happening around them. Claire remembered the photograph inside Marcus's bag. "Your wife was military too?" she asked carefully. Marcus nodded. "Medical service." Noah traced the silver letters on his toy airplane. "Her name was Danielle." Claire looked at him. "That is a beautiful name." She liked helping people. Marcus stared ahead. She believed nobody should have to be alone on their worst day. Claire's eyes shifted toward him. The irony was impossible to miss. She had made Marcus's day worse before he had done anything to her, and now he was making sure she was not alone in what might become the worst day of her life. "Marcus," she said. It was the first time she had used his name. He turned. "About the bag." "Not now. I need to say this." "Then say it when Noah does not need both of us focus." Claire stopped. Both of us. He had included her without forgiving her. The distinction mattered. A passenger behind them began breathing rapidly, asking whether the airplane was going down. Rachel tried to reassure him while remaining. Strapped into her jump seat, Marcus turned just enough to make eye contact with the man. "Sir, listen to the crew. Feet flat. Seatbelt tight. One breath at a time." The man nodded. Claire watched the response ripple through the nearby passengers. Nobody knew Marcus had once worked aircraft rescue, except the few people close enough to hear. They trusted him anyway, because he was giving them something panic could not. A next step. Claire looked down at Noah's hand inside hers. "I judge your dad too quickly," she whispered. Noah considered that with the seriousness only children could give simple truths. "Then you can know him slower." Claire blinked. Marcus almost smiled despite himself. "That sounds like your mother." Noah leaned against him. "She said people are more than their worst minute." Claire looked away toward the window, where gray clouds were thinning below them. Through a break in the mist, flat farmland appeared, then a narrow runway in the distance. Rachel saw it too. "Brace instructions in 1 minute." Marcus's body stiffened, his eyes fixed on that runway, but for an instant he was somewhere else entirely. Noah noticed and pressed the old military watch into his father's palm. "You said hold it for you." Marcus closed his fingers around the scratched metal. Claire saw his composure fracture for only a heartbeat. Then Noah reached for him with his free hand, leaving Claire connected on the other side. 3 hands between 3 seats. No status. No accusation. No certainty about what came next. Only a frightened child, a father carrying an old wound, and a woman beginning to understand that the person she had distrusted was teaching her how to trust again. Mom died because Dad was not home. Noah's words came softly, without blame, but Marcus turned toward him as if the sentence had opened a door he had spent years keeping closed. Claire released a slow breath and kept holding Noah's hand. Outside the window, the runway appeared between thinning clouds, then vanished again as the aircraft banked. Rachel's voice carried through the cabin. Everyone remained seated. "Tighten your seat belts and follow the brace instructions." Marcus checked Noah's belt, then his own. Claire watched him touch the scratched military watch before sliding it back onto his wrist. "Noah," Marcus said gently, "your mother did not die because I was away." Noah looked down at the toy airplane. "But you always say you should have been there." Marcus went still. Claire understood then. The child had not invented the guilt. He had inherited it from listening. Marcus stared toward the seat in front of him. "I was attending emergency response training in Nevada. Your mom was driving home from the hospital after a late shift. There was an accident on the highway." His voice remained controlled, but his thumb moved repeatedly across the watch face. "By the time I got back, she was gone." Noah leaned against him. "That is why you stopped rescuing people." Marcus looked at his son. "I stopped doing that work because you had already lost one parent. I cannot make you spend every night wondering whether the other one would come home." Claire lowered her eyes. She had spent the morning measuring people by what they carried, where they sat, and how quickly they obeyed. Marcus had been measuring every decision by whether his son would still have a father at the end of it. Rachel moved past them and paused. "Mr. Reed, I may need your help if we evacuate after landing." Marcus looked at Noah. Before he could answer, Claire spoke. "Only if he can stay with his son." Rachel met her eyes, surprised. Claire did not look away. "You have trained crew. His son needs him." Marcus studied her. This was the first time Claire had used her influence not to demand something from him, but to protect what mattered to him. Rachel nodded. "Understood. I will only ask if it becomes necessary." She returned forward. Noah looked at Claire. "Thank you." Claire swallowed. "You should not have to thank me for that." A moment passed. Then she turned toward Marcus. "When we land, I am withdrawing the report." Marcus's expression hardened slightly. "Because the airplane is in trouble?" "No." "Because I was military?" "No." Claire glanced at Noah. "Because I had no evidence when I made it." The answer settled between them. Rachel said your luggage tag matched. Claire continued. "The gate thinks another bag was moved. I accused you before anyone checked either fact." Marcus nodded once. "That is closer." "Closer to what?" "Accountability." Claire accepted the word without defense. Noah looked between them. "Does that mean she said sorry?" Marcus almost smiled. "It means she is getting there." Claire gave Noah a small, tired smile. "Your father makes people work for their answers." Mom did too. The smile disappeared from Marcus's face, replaced by something warmer and sadder. The aircraft dipped again. A low mechanical vibration passed beneath their feet. Rachel immediately took the intercom. "Brace position. Heads down. Stay down until instructed." Claire's hand tightened around Noah's. Marcus leaned toward his son. "Remember what we practiced. Feet back. Head down." Noah obeyed, then looked up once more. "Dad, I am here. You are coming home with me." Marcus held his gaze. "That is the plan." Claire heard the difference between a promise and hope. She suddenly understood why Marcus refused to pretend fear did not exist. He simply refused to let fear decide who he became. From several rows behind them came a frightened voice, asking whether anyone knew what would happen next. Marcus did not turn around. "We listen to the crew. We stay together. We take the next thing one step at a time." The cabin quieted enough for the words to travel. Claire lowered into the brace position beside Noah. The recovered truth about her missing bag still waited somewhere on the ground, but the deeper truth was already sitting across the aisle. She had looked at Marcus Reed and imagined danger. Now, as the runway rose toward them through the gray morning, the person she trusted most was the man she had never bothered to know. Before we continue, take a quick second to subscribe to Hidden Father Stories if you haven't already. If you love powerful family dramas, surprising stories, real-life inspired journeys, and stories with meaningful life lessons, you're in the right place. Your support helps us create a brand new cinematic story every single day. The runway disappeared beneath the nose, then returned so suddenly that Claire felt her breath catch. "Stay down," Marcus said. His voice was calm, but his hand remained firmly over Noah's shoulder as the boy held the brace position. Rachel repeated the command from the forward jump seat. The cabin filled with small sounds that somehow felt louder than shouting. Seatbelts tightening, plastic cups rolling beneath seats, someone whispering a prayer, Noah breathing through his nose exactly as Marcus had taught him. Then the aircraft banked slightly left. Marcus lifted his eyes just enough to see Rachel looking toward the cockpit door. Something had changed. A warning tone sounded briefly. Rachel reached for the intercom handset, listened, then looked back toward Marcus. "Mr. Reed." Noah immediately raised his head. No. Marcus did not move. "What happened?" Rachel kept her voice controlled. "Captain Hayes wants the cabin checked one final time. We have a loose service compartment near the forward galley, and I cannot leave the jump seat during final approach." Marcus looked at Noah. Every instinct from his old life told him to move. Every promise from his new life told him to stay. Claire saw the conflict before he spoke. "Stay with him," she said. Marcus turned toward her. Rachel asked because she needs help, and Noah asked because he needs his father. Noah's fingers closed around Marcus's wrist. For several seconds, nobody moved. Then a passenger near the galley called out that he could reach the compartment from his seat. Rachel guided him through securing the latch without standing. The problem was solved. Marcus exhaled. Claire looked at him. "You do not have to save everyone yourself." His eyes shifted toward Noah. "That lesson took me a long time. Maybe you are still learning it." There was no challenge in her voice now, only recognition. Marcus almost answered, but Noah suddenly pointed toward the aisle. "Miss Claire." Her phone had slipped from his seat pocket and stopped near Marcus's boot. He picked it up. The screen had awakened from the movement. The last message from her assistant remained visible. "Bag may have been misrouted during boarding. Reviewing ramp transfer now." Claire saw Marcus read it. Shame moved across her face. They knew before the engines failed. Marcus handed the phone back. "They suspected, and I still suspected you." "Yes." Claire looked toward Noah. "I cannot change what he saw me do." Marcus's voice softened. "No, but you can decide what he sees you do next." Noah watched them both, absorbing more than either adult wanted. Claire placed the phone away. "Then when we're safely down, I tell the truth. To the airline. To security. To anyone who heard me accuse you." Marcus studied her for a moment. That would be a start. The aircraft dropped several feet, and Claire instinctively reached for Noah. Marcus noticed. So did Noah. The boy did not pull away. Instead, he placed his mother's toy airplane in Claire's hand. "Hold this." Claire stared at it. "Why?" "Dad gave me his watch when I was scared." Noah nodded toward the toy. "You look scared." Claire closed her fingers carefully around the little blue plane. "What if I lose it?" "Then Dad will find it." Marcus gave Noah a look. "That is a lot of confidence. You always find my stuff." A faint laugh escaped Claire before she could stop it. It lasted less than a second, but it changed the air between them. Then Captain Hayes came over the speakers. "Final approach. Brace. Brace." Marcus immediately positioned Noah. Claire returned the toy airplane and lowered her head. The runway rushed closer beyond the windows. Marcus's old training came back in fragments. Smoke, radios, heat, strangers waiting for someone to make the next decision. But another memory rose beside it now. Danielle, standing in their kitchen years earlier, telling him that courage was not always running toward danger. Sometimes courage was knowing what deserved you most. Marcus placed one hand over Noah's. Across the aisle, Claire reached out without thinking, and Noah took hers. The cabin descended through the final 100 feet with 3 people connected by hands that had begun the flight, separated by suspicion. Marcus closed his eyes for one heartbeat, not to pray for himself, not even for the strangers around him. He thought only of the boy beside him and the promise he had spent years trying to keep. Come home. The first contact with the runway felt almost gentle. For one impossible second, Claire believed they had made it. Then the aircraft bounced, lifted, and came down again with a deep metallic rumble that traveled through every seat. Stay down, Marcus called. Noah's small hand was locked around his father's fingers while his other hand held Claire's. The cabin shook hard enough to send loose cups and papers sliding forward, but Marcus kept his body between Noah and the aisle. Outside, wet pavement blurred past the windows. Without normal engine power, there was no familiar roar, only rushing wind, tires against concrete, and the strained sounds of a machine trying to surrender its speed. Dad, Noah whispered, "I am here." Marcus did not lift his head. "Keep your feet back." Claire repeated the words under her breath, as if they were meant for her too. The aircraft began slowing. Then it pulled sharply toward one side. Several passengers cried out. Rachel's voice cut through the noise. "Remain in brace position." Marcus smelled something faint beneath the conditioned air. Hot rubber. Then something sharper. He knew that smell. His eyes opened. The aircraft finally stopped with a long shudder. Silence arrived so suddenly that nobody trusted it. Noah lifted his head first. "Are we down?" Marcus looked toward the window. "We are down." A few passengers began cheering, but Rachel immediately called for everyone to remain seated. Marcus saw pale smoke drifting beyond the far wing. The emergency was not finished. Claire looked at him and recognized the change in his face. "What is it?" "We wait for the crew." Rachel received a message from the cockpit, then stood. "We are evacuating. Leave all belongings behind. Everything stays on the aircraft." The words moved through the cabin. "Leave everything." Claire's eyes instinctively flicked toward the overhead compartment. Marcus noticed. So, did she? For a moment, the missing black carry-on returned between them like a ghost from another life. Claire looked away from the bin. "It does not matter." Marcus held her gaze. "No, it does not." Rachel opened the forward exit after confirming conditions outside. Fresh air rushed into the cabin. Passengers began moving in controlled groups. Marcus unbuckled Noah. "Stay attached to me." Noah immediately grabbed his jacket. Claire stood beside them, unsteady but composed. A frightened older woman across the aisle struggled to release her belt. Marcus reached over and pressed the buckle. "You're all right, ma'am. Go with Rachel." Claire steadied the woman's elbow as she stepped into the aisle. Marcus noticed, but said nothing. They moved forward several feet before someone behind them called Rachel's name. A passenger had become too frightened to leave his seat. Rachel turned, but the aisle was filling. Marcus looked back. Noah felt the movement. "Dad!" One word stopped him. Marcus looked down at his son, then toward the passenger. Before he could choose, Claire touched his arm. "Stay with Noah. I can help." Marcus stared at her. Claire moved back 2 rows, crouched beside the frightened man, and spoke with the same calm rhythm Marcus had used with her. "Do not think about the whole airplane. Just the next step. Unbuckle. Stunt. Walk with me." The man looked at her. "I cannot." "Yes, you can. One thing at a time." Marcus heard his own words coming back through the woman who had accused him. The man finally stood. Claire guided him forward and returned to Marcus and Noah. Noah looked up at her. "You helped him." Claire's eyes met Marcus's. "Someone showed me how." They reached the exit. Noah hesitated at the sight of emergency vehicles flashing across the wet runway. Marcus crouched beside him. "Remember what Mom said?" Noah swallowed. Nobody should be alone on their worst day. "Right." Claire stood behind them, listening. Noah reached for her hand again. "Then she comes with us." Marcus looked at Claire. The billionaire who had boarded expecting strangers to move aside for her now waited silently for his permission. Marcus nodded. Together, they stepped out into cold air and moved toward the emergency cruise. Behind them, Rachel continued directing passengers away from the aircraft. Ahead, Firefighters waved survivors toward a safe area nearly 200 feet away. Noah kept one hand in Marcus's and one in Claire's until they reached it. Only then did Marcus count the faces coming from the plane. His eyes stopped. Rachel was not among them. He looked back toward the aircraft. Claire saw the old rescuer return to his face before he moved a single muscle. Noah saw it too, and his fingers tightened around his father's hand. Noah did not let go. "Dad, you said you were coming home with me." Marcus kept his eyes on the aircraft. Emergency crews were moving toward it now, bright jackets cutting through the gray morning. Passengers gathered behind the safety line, wrapped in blankets, counting family members, calling names. Marcus counted again. Rachel was still missing. "I know what I said." He crouched until his face was level with Noah's. "And I mean it." Noah searched his eyes. "Then do not go back." The words reached the place Marcus had spent years trying to protect. Claire stood beside them, rain gathering on the shoulders of her cream blazer. For once, she did not tell Marcus what he should do. A firefighter ran past and shouted to another crew member that one flight attendant might still be near the forward galley. Marcus turned instinctively. Noah's hand tightened. Then Claire spoke. "The firefighters are already going in." Marcus looked at her. "They know their job," she continued. "You taught me that helping does not always mean taking control." Marcus stared toward the aircraft as two firefighters reached the forward exit. His breathing slowed. The old part of him wanted to run toward the problem, because running toward problems had once been how he measured his worth. Then Noah pressed the scratched military watch into his palm again. "Mom said come home." Marcus looked down. "She did. So come home." Marcus closed his fingers around the watch. Behind them, a woman began asking where her husband was. Claire immediately turned, found a man standing 20 feet away with another group, and guided the woman toward him. It was a small act, almost invisible among flashing emergency lights, but Marcus saw it. Claire returned without expecting praise. "Rachel has professionals helping her," she said. "Noah has one father." Marcus nodded slowly. Then a firefighter appeared at the aircraft door. Rachel emerged behind him, walking carefully, but on her own. Noah exhaled so loudly that Claire almost laughed. Marcus closed his eyes for 1 second. Relief, not heroism, softened his face. Rachel reached the safe area several minutes later wrapped in a silver emergency blanket. "You stayed," she said when she saw Marcus. He glanced at Noah. "I had somewhere I needed to be." Rachel smiled. "Good choice." Claire lowered her eyes. Those two words seemed to carry more weight than anyone intended. A ground supervisor approached with a tablet, taking passenger names. When he reached Claire, recognition crossed his face immediately. "Miss Whitmore, we can arrange private transportation in a separate waiting area." Claire looked at Marcus and Noah standing among the other passengers. Earlier, that kind of privilege would have felt normal. Now it felt like another invisible door opening only for her. "No," she said. "I will stay with everyone else." The supervisor hesitated. "Of course." Marcus noticed, but said nothing. Then Claire's phone connected to the airport network and began vibrating repeatedly. One message appeared from her assistant. "Bag located." Claire stopped breathing for a moment. Marcus saw the words from where he stood. The message continued. "Removed at gate during tag check. Placed on wrong transfer card. Security confirmed no theft." Claire stared at the screen. There it was. The truth she had demanded from Marcus while refusing to demand it from herself. Noah looked up. "Did they find your bag?" Claire swallowed. "Yes." "Where was it?" "The airport moved it by mistake." Noah considered that. "So Dad did not take it." Claire's face tightened with shame. "No, he never did." Marcus said nothing. Claire looked toward the passengers nearby. Some of them had heard her accusation before takeoff. Some had watched Marcus open his belongings. She could quietly withdraw the complaint and let the moment disappear. Her attorneys would probably advise exactly that. Instead, Claire walked toward the ground supervisor. "Sir, I need something added to the incident record." He raised the tablet. "Certainly." Claire looked back at Marcus, then at Noah. "Before departure, I accused Mr. Reed of taking my property. I had no evidence. The bag has been located, and he had nothing to do with its disappearance." The supervisor entered the statement. Claire continued. Please make sure airport security receives that exactly as I said it. Marcus finally met her eyes. The power between them had changed again, but this time he did not need to win anything. Claire had begun doing the harder thing. She was correcting herself where other people could hear it. Noah slipped his hand into Marcus's. Is that accountability? Marcus watched Claire finish the statement. That is a start. Claire had barely finished speaking when a man in a Navy emergency jacket stopped several feet from Marcus and stared at him. He was in his late 50s, silver at the temples, with an airport fire department badge clipped to his chest. Reed? Marcus turned. The man stepped closer. Marcus Reed. Noah looked up at his father. Marcus's expression changed with recognition. Chief Warren. The older man gave a disbelieving laugh. I have not seen you in 6 years. Claire watched Marcus straighten slightly, not with pride, but with the discomfort of someone whose past had just found him in public. Chief Thomas Warren looked toward the aircraft, then back at Marcus. Of all the people to have aboard during a dual-engine emergency. Marcus shook his head. The crew handled it. That sounds like you. Rachel, still wrapped in the silver blanket, approached slowly. You know him? Warren looked at her. I trained with his unit at Travis years ago. Marcus immediately interrupted. Chief. Warren understood the warning, but ignored it gently. This man never liked anyone talking about him. Noah's eyes widened. Claire remained silent. Warren looked at the scratched watch on Marcus's wrist. You still wear that thing? Marcus touched it instinctively. Some habits stay. Warren nodded, then looked at Noah. Your dad once went back into a disabled transport aircraft more times than anyone asked him to, because people were still waiting for help. Marcus's jaw tightened. That is enough. He received a valor citation for it. Noah stared at his father. You got a medal. Marcus crouched beside him. A citation. And there were a lot of people doing their jobs that day. Warren smiled. Still doing it. Still giving everybody else the credit. Claire felt the shame return, deeper now, but different from the humiliation of being wrong about a bag. She remembered the first moment she saw Marcus. Broad shoulders, work jacket, black carry-on. She had created an entire story from those details. Now another story was being revealed, not about status, but service. Yet Marcus seemed almost eager for Warren to stop telling it. Noah touched his father's sleeve. Why did you never tell me? Marcus looked toward the wet runway. Because being brave once does not make you better than anybody. But you saved people, and somebody helped me when I needed it too. Claire heard the answer and understood why her apology could never be about turning Marcus into a hero simply because she had first treated him like a suspect. He had deserved respect before she knew anything impressive about him. Warren received a radio call and stepped away. Rachel looked at Marcus. For what it is worth, I trusted you before I heard that. Marcus gave her a tired smile. That is worth more. Claire lowered her gaze. I did the opposite. Marcus looked at her. Yes. She did not defend herself. Noah glanced between them. But she told the truth about the bag. Marcus nodded. She did. Claire crouched, so she was closer to Noah's height. I should have told the truth sooner. The truth was that I did not know what happened. I acted like I did. Noah considered this. Dad says people are more than their worst minute. Claire looked toward Marcus. Your mother said that, he corrected softly. Noah smiled. You say it now. For a moment Marcus could not answer. Danielle was still present in ways he had never noticed, traveling through their son one borrowed sentence at a time. Claire stood and looked at Marcus. Why did you help me in the cabin? Marcus glanced toward Noah. Because he was watching. That is all. That is everything. Claire waited. Marcus continued. I cannot teach my son dignity by throwing mine away the first time somebody gives me a reason. The words landed without anger. Claire looked toward the terminal, where airport officials and reporters were beginning to gather behind glass. Her recovered bag would be waiting somewhere inside. So would questions, lawyers, cameras, and the familiar machinery of reputation. But Noah slipped his hand into Marcus's, and Marcus's attention returned immediately to him. No medal, no Billionaire, no accusations, just a father checking whether his child was cold. Claire removed her blazer and offered it to Noah. Marcus looked at her. She did not insist. Noah accepted it and pulled it around his shoulders. Thank you. Claire smiled faintly. You are welcome. Then the three of them began walking toward the terminal together, while behind them the emergency lights reflected across the rain like something finally being washed clean. Inside the terminal, the world seemed unnaturally ordinary. Coffee machines hummed behind closed counters. Departure boards continued changing gates and times. Rain traced thin silver lines down the enormous windows while survivors sat beneath airline blankets, speaking in voices that never rose much above whispers. Noah sat between Marcus and Claire, still wearing Claire's cream blazer around his shoulders. His toy airplane rested safely in his lap. Marcus checked him again. Headache? No, DC. Noah shook his head. Hungry? Marcus finally smiled. That sounds normal. An airline representative approached with a black leather carry-on. Claire recognized it immediately. Miss Whitmore. This was returned from the transfer area. The baggage tag was misread during boarding, and the bag was removed from the aircraft before departure. The representative placed it beside her chair. Claire stared at the polished leather. Hours earlier, that object had seemed important enough to justify suspicion. Now it looked small, almost embarrassing. Thank you, she said. The representative turned to Marcus. Mr. Reed, airport security has received Miss Whitmore's corrected statement. There will be no action regarding the earlier report. Marcus's eyes sharpened. There should never have been action without evidence. The representative paused. You are right, sir. Claire looked at Marcus. He is. The representative nodded and walked away. Claire placed both hands in her lap. Marcus, I owe you an apology that does not depend on the plane, your military service, or anything Chief Warren said. Marcus remained quiet. Claire continued. I accused you because I saw my missing bag near you and decided the rest of the story before checking the facts. Then when your bag was opened and mine was not there, I still expected you to explain what happened. Noah looked up from his toy. Claire's voice softened. That was unfair, and I'm sorry. Marcus watched her for several seconds. Why are you apologizing now? Because I was wrong. You already knew that outside. Claire glanced toward the recovered bag. Outside? I was correcting the record. This is different. Ow! She looked at Noah. Because he heard me accuse you. You should hear me apologize too. Marcus's expression changed slightly. Claire turned toward the boy. Noah, I treated your father like he had to prove he was a good man to me. He did not. I should have treated him with respect before I knew anything about him. Noah studied her with quiet seriousness. Are you still scared of him? Claire looked at Marcus, surprised. I was never exactly scared of him. Noah tilted his head. Then why did you think he took your stuff? The question was simple enough to leave nowhere to hide. Claire looked down at her hands. Because sometimes adults make assumptions they do not want to admit they are making. Marcus said nothing. Claire continued. And if we are decent, we notice them and change. Noah glanced at his father. Is that accountability? Marcus nodded. That is getting closer. Claire gave a small laugh, more tired than amused. Your father has very high standards. Mom did too. The smile disappeared from Marcus's face for a heartbeat, then returned softer. Claire looked toward the photograph, now resting beside Marcus's carry-on. Danielle sounded like someone I would have respected. Marcus rubbed his thumb across the old watch. She would have made you earn it. I think I would have liked her. Most people did. Noah leaned against Marcus's arm. Dad misses her when he gets quiet. Marcus looked down at him. You tell everybody everything, only important stuff. Claire smiled, then looked toward the windows. Emergency lights still flashed far across the wet runway. I spent years thinking respect followed achievement, she said. Job title, education, reputation, proof. Marcus answered quietly. Respect should come first. Trust can come later. Claire absorbed that. Then she reached for the recovered bag, and Marcus watched her lift it onto the empty chair beside her. For 1 second, he expected her to check the contents. Instead, she pushed it away. No one noticed. You're not going to open it. Claire looked at him. Not yet. Why? She glanced at Marcus. Because I already found out what mattered. Marcus did not reward the answer with easy forgiveness. He simply nodded. Noah yawned and rested his head against his father's shoulder. Within minutes, his breathing became slow and even. Claire lowered her voice. Will he remember all of this? Marcus looked at his sleeping son. Probably. I wish he had not seen what I did. Marcus adjusted Claire's blazer around Noah. You cannot choose which moments he remembers. Then he looked at her. You can choose what kind of person he remembers afterward. Claire sat quietly beside the bag she had once valued more than a stranger's dignity, while morning light began spreading across the terminal floor. By sunrise, the emergency lights beyond the terminal windows had become pale reflections against the wet runway, and the noise around the survivors had softened to rolling suitcases, distant announcements, and the quiet murmur of families calling home. Noah slept against Marcus's shoulder beneath Claire's cream blazer, one hand still curled around the little blue airplane Danielle had given him. Marcus had not moved for nearly 20 minutes. Claire sat 2 seats away. Her recovered carry-on rested beside her, untouched. For the first time since boarding, nobody needed anything from them. No questions. No emergency instructions. No accusations. Just time. Claire looked through the glass. I was wrong about you. Marcus kept his eyes on the rain. You already said that. I know. She paused. I think I kept saying it because I wanted you to tell me it was all right. Marcus finally looked at her. It was not all right. Claire nodded. I know that too. There was no anger in his voice, which somehow made the truth easier to hear and harder to escape. Claire folded her hands. I did not know how to undo it. Marcus looked down at Noah. The boy's cheek rested against his father's jacket, completely trusting the arms around him. You do not. Claire waited. Marcus continued. Just be right about the next person. She lowered her eyes. A boarding announcement sounded somewhere beyond the empty concourse. Another flight. Another group of strangers deciding who belonged where, who looked trustworthy, who deserved patience. Claire glanced at her bag. I spent years building a company because I thought being powerful meant never being the person people could dismiss. Marcus listened. Somewhere along the way, I started doing the dismissing. Power does not change what people are, Marcus said. Sometimes it just gives them fewer reasons to notice. Claire absorbed that quietly. Noah stirred. His eyes open halfway, unfocused with sleep. Are we home? Marcus smiled. Not yet, buddy. Noah noticed Claire. You stayed. I did. He looked toward her bag. Did you find everything? Claire followed his gaze. Yes. Noah yawned. Good. There was no judgment in his answer. No satisfaction that she had been wrong. Just relief that something lost had been returned. Claire looked at Marcus. What does he do that? Do what? Make things simple. Marcus adjusted the blazer around Noah. Children usually see the person before they see the resume. Noah frowned sleepily. What is a resume? Claire laughed softly. Marcus did too. The sound lasted only a moment, but it was the first laughter between them that did not come from nerves. Noah pulled the toy airplane from beneath the blazer and held it toward Claire. You can see it. Claire accepted it carefully. The silver words beneath the wing had faded from years of small hands carrying it everywhere. Love you, Mom. Your mother must have loved you very much. Noah nodded. Dad says love stays after people leave. Claire looked at Marcus. He did not correct him. Noah reached for the airplane, then hesitated. Do you still think Dad takes things? Claire's expression fell. Marcus remained silent. This answer belonged to her. Claire leaned closer. No, but more important, I should never have decided that without knowing the truth. Noah considered her answer. Okay. Claire blinked. Okay. Mom said people are more than their worst minute. Marcus looked toward the windows, his eyes shining in the morning light. Claire handed the airplane back. I hope she was right. Marcus answered quietly. She usually was. Noah shifted between them and reached one hand toward Claire. She took it. His other hand remained inside Marcus's. Claire looked at their joined hands, remembering how easily she had pointed at Marcus hours earlier. The same hand that had accused had learned to hold on. Outside, the rain began to thin. Sunlight broke through the clouds and stretched across the terminal floor until it reached Claire's black bag. She pushed it gently beneath the empty chair, out of the light. Marcus stood with Noah in his arms. Claire rose beside them. There was no promise that they would become family, no sudden reward that could purchase forgiveness, no miracle capable of erasing what had happened. There was only something quieter and more difficult. A woman willing to change, a father unwilling to surrender his dignity, and a child who had watched both of them and still believed people could become better than their worst moment. Marcus started toward the exit. Claire walked beside him, not ahead. At the glass doors, Noah lifted his head and looked at the clearing sky. Marcus felt his son's breathing against his shoulder and thought of Danielle. He had spent years believing coming home meant simply surviving long enough to return. That morning, he understood it differently. Sometimes coming home meant carrying forward the kindness someone had left inside you. Claire opened the door for them. Marcus paused, met her eyes, and gave a small nod. Nothing was erased. Something had healed. And beneath the quiet morning light, that was enough. Every story leaves us with a question. What would you have done if you were in their place? Share your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear your perspective. If you enjoy touching stories, inspiring life journeys, emotional family dramas, and unforgettable love stories, don't forget to like, subscribe to Hidden Father Stories, and turn on notifications. A brand new cinematic story is waiting for you tomorrow.